things. I was like, well, is it does a monster movie count? But I thought I'd let you define what a creature feature is, and then I'll work around that.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, okay, I think we are live. Can everybody hear us?
We're live?
I think so. Hi, Tatum. I'm pretty good, thank you.
Tatum's here?
Yeah,
I
she
gotta
said
go
hi,
find
Mr.
your
Sister. How are
stream.
you? Thank you for
I gotta
joining
go
us.
find it. Oh, wait, it's on the Twitters.
It's on the Twitters.
That's where all the young people are, is on the Twitters.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's right. The Monsters trailer dropped today. All right, dude, I gotta bounce. I gotta go watch that. No, I'm kidding. I kid. Tatum's here. Ooh, I'm gonna go put that we are live now on my Twitters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. So let's do that real quick. And then we'll start this off properly.
Boom. There you go. Alrighty. This is your first live stream. I'm so excited. This is a pretty big deal.
This is huge. Hello, world. This is the world premiere of my first live stream. This is my very special guest, Gory B Movie. She's joining us. Do you want to talk about? Do you want to introduce the topic?
Tonight, we're talking about underrated creature features, which is a topic near and dear to my gory heart because I love all the creatures. I love killer baby creatures. I love killer cats. I love killer Sasquatchi, whichever one of those is correct. I love them. So this is a great topic, and I'm excited because I know you know your movies, and I think you're going to tell me about at least one movie I've never heard of before. So
I'm excited too because we had a pretty interesting talk before, and people seem to like that discussion. So, do you want to start this time, ladies first?
Well, first, would you define what a creature feature is? Because based on your definition, I don't know if some of mine would fit.
Basically, anything that's like a monster movie, whether it's big or small. So, like Aliens would count. Like I even count like Jurassic Park as like a monster movie. Stuff like that. King Kong, that kind of stuff. Godzilla. I couldn't make a monster creature feature movie without like at least one kaiju movie. So I do have one of those on my list. You'll find out which one is a bit.
I got you. I got you, fam.
Oh yeah. So basically anything that's like a monster. You know what I mean? Like just a monster movie, creature feature.
I think I'll go with one of the ones I put on the thumbnail, which I don't think you had seen because you asked me about it, is Deep Rising. So people like to shit on the 90s. You know what? There were some great freaking movies in the 90s. There was Scream, there was The Faculty, and another one I really like that nobody ever talks about is Deep Rising. It stars Treat Williams, and if you like that 90s kind of tongue-in-cheek, smart, witty humor, it has that in spades. It's about this guy and a couple of friends who are like scavengers, and they're going to this cruise ship. And meanwhile, Famke Johnson's in it. She's been thrown in the brig because she's a thief. And I can't remember all the details of actually why they got there. Anyway, it doesn't matter because there's a giant underwater creature that is attacking the boat. And so all these cruise ship people are getting killed. And then there's Treat Williams, and he's got a freaking jet ski, and Famke Johnson, and he's like, I'm going to kill you, sea monster thing. And it's super tentacly, and it's so much fun.
That sounds like a blast. I have to find that. Is it streaming anywhere? Do you know?
I'm going to find out. If you go onto Letterboxd, pretty much any movie you look at on Letterboxd, it will give you a link to the Just Watch page, and then that will tell you where it's streaming. So it looks like you can get it on Amazon or YouTube. I have it on Blu-ray, and it's honestly pretty cheap on Blu-ray. Oh, you can watch it for free on Hoopla.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
Am I a moderator on your thingy?
I
so
don't
moderators,
so.
because you're new, moderators can post links, but it doesn't look like you have any restrictions. So I just posted a link.
Yeah, go for it.
That's the Just Watch link. So you can go from there to where you could find it on Google or Amazon or YouTube, but it looks like Hoopla has it for free. I don't really know what Hoopla is, but it's free. And then I have it on Blu-ray. If you want, I can grab that for you really quick.
Yeah, cool. Your massive collection. It's like you live in a video store. I love it.
It's awesome, dude. Okay, so yeah, this is Deep Rising. There's the cruise ship. Here's the creature. Cool. The creature. Look, there's Treat Williams. He was in Dead Heat, which is also fantastic. Anyway, this is a little 90s gem that more people should check out because it's got a great sense of humor. It's got great action. It's got great, creatures in it, which is what we're talking about today. So I highly, highly recommend this movie.
That's awesome. Looks like Ben Grimm is saying Hoopla is a streaming service through your local library, and it's free. So there you go. Thank you, Ben. Ben
knows a lot of shit. Ben has great recommendations, too, so hopefully he'll toss them in your chat. Sprinkle them away. By the way, if you guys haven't subscribed yet to the channel that you're watching right now, Mr. Flickster, do that, because he just posts great stuff all the time, like this stream that we're on right now, which is pretty great.
I have 56 subscribers, and I'm so happy. I couldn't do it without you, Gory. Thank you.
Nice. You were pretty close, but I'm glad to help.
I was close. I just needed that push.
Honestly, dude, that first 100, that first 1,000 is hard. But after that, it gets easier. And you have good months and bad months. And, I have a really, really small channel. And honestly, it's pretty all right. People are pretty nice when you have a small channel, so it's not all bad.
That's awesome. That's cool. So for my first pick, this is one that maybe you've heard of it, maybe you weren't, because we're close to the same age, so you were a 90s kid like I was. It's called The Relic. It's from 1997.
I do remember The Relic. So were you a child in the 90s?
I was born in 85, so yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're pretty close to the same age. I got you. Yeah. So we were watching cool. What was awesome about our age group is in the 90s, horror became very teenager, directed towards teenagers. It wasn't just having teenagers in it to kill them off for the entertainment of older audiences, which is what I think Friday the 13th and such was. But the 90s, it was really directed at teenagers, expecting them to be the ones going to the theater. That's why a lot of them were PG-13 and stuff, so that younger people could go see them. But I think we had some of the best teen horror films in the 90s.
Yeah, for sure. And not just movies too. A lot of TV was geared toward teens too, like the Buffy show. And there's a lot of ripoffs like that too.
My absolute favorite thing that's ever happened ever. And that's including my son being born.
I actually got to meet Spike at Niagara Falls Comic Con. It was so I couldn't believe it. He had the blonde hair still, and he started talking in the voice. It was pretty cool.
That's so cool. My friend got a cameo from him, and it was so cool. And I have a friend who met him and said he was really, really nice. My friend has naturally white hair because he has albinism. And I guess James Marsters was like, I'm so jealous. I have blisters on my head from the bleach, and your hair is naturally that white. So I guess he seems like he was a really cool guy. Of Buffy, I have met Nicholas Brendan and Camden Toy, who played a lot of the creatures.
That's cool.
That's it. Yeah.
So I got sidetracked. Sorry, back to what I was saying.
Sorry, I'm bad at that.
No, that's okay. This is actually available on video on demand. I found it on Cineplex. I'm in Ontario, so maybe if you're in Canada, you can go to the Cineplex store, you can get it. But I also found out it's on YouTube and it's on Google Play. It's one of those video on demand ones, so you got to pay to rent it, but it's so worth it. It's all about this museum, and it's having this big time event. And all of a sudden, they get this strange package from South America.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but so I looked on Just Watch. If you guys have HBO Max, it's on there for free.
Oh, thank you very much. See, it's different in America and it is in Canada. Keep that in mind, y'all.
On DirecTV, if you have that.
Thank you.
All right. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. This one is from Paramount Pictures. It's directed by Peter Hyams. Sorry if I butchered that. It's also based off the best-selling novel of the same name by Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. And basically, this movie is about a detective and a biologist, because this museum got this mysterious package, and all of a sudden these people start getting murdered one by one, and they all start getting decapitated. And the detectives try to figure out who's doing all this. And at the same time, the biologist trying to figure out, like, why is this thing open? Like, how come these look like animal attacks? Like, this can be like human, stuff like that. And then you find out later on, it's not really a spoiler because it's a monster movie. Like, it's all in the ads and stuff like that. And it's like 20 years old now. So there's a monster in it because this monster, it delivers. Like, this thing looks so cool. I remember being blown away because it does a good job of not showing it right away. I watched it just the other day.
I get it and Mimic mixed up because they came out around the same time. I remember I liked both of them.
This one's like the giant lizard. It has like the tusks.
Yeah,
Like people, and it climbs up the walls and stuff like that. Oh, it's so cool. But it does a good job of that bait and switch thing. Like, it doesn't really show the monster right away. Kind of like that Jaws kind of feel. And everyone's trapped in this museum, and there's this big event because it's just like Jaws. They're like, we can't cancel this event. Like, we'll lose millions, kind of thing. It's in Chicago, right?
No. Money.
And it does a good job of a combination of like animatronics and CGI, and I think it still holds up to this day compared to like modern movies. A lot of modern movies don't have the best CGI, but no, this one was pretty good. Like,
some of the low budget ones, they'll even do CGI for the blood. And I'm like, honey, that's the easiest practical effect in the world. Get some corn syrup and some dye. Why are you ruining your movie with CGI? Like, bad, cheap, you got it off of YouTube CGI. Like, I've done it in some videos, but I do it because it's fun.
Yeah, and you've probably seen some of like the Anaconda sequels and the Lake Placid sequels. Obviously, those ones don't count for this list, but the CGI gets progressively worse as the newer ones came out. Like, it's pretty bad when CGI from the 90s looks better than modern movies. So that's Relic, and it's awesome. So if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I don't want to say too much because it's one of those ones that the gore in this is amazing. And even that, it's all practical effects because this is when around the time like Jurassic Park came out a few years before, and I think Anaconda came out around the same time. So CGI was kind of new in movies and stuff like that. But they use it sparingly, like they don't overdo it, and it doesn't really have like fake jump scares. I hate when movies rely on that. But that's Relic.
Awesome. I've got another creature in the water for you, also on the thumbnail, and this is The Host. This is a great movie from 2006. Again, an era where there was a lot of like what people call torture porn. But this was a great creature feature that kind of went under the radar. This was a Korean film. Really, really good. It's kind of almost in some ways how like Godzilla commented on a lot of the things that were happening in the world then. In the way that The Host does. All this toxic waste gets dumped. I think it's into their river. And it creates this creature. So, but what really makes the story so good, it's not the creature, which the creature looks really good. It seems like it's a combination of like practical and CGI. It looks pretty good. It's all tentacly. But the heart of this movie is this family. It's like this deadbeat dad and his mom, I think. But he has a little girl. And she's, an overachiever. Like, she's doing a great job of kind of raising herself. But they love each other very, very much. Even though he kind of lets her down a lot, and she ends up getting kidnapped by the creature. And it's really suspenseful because she's kept underground and like almost like this nest. I think it's like under a bridge. And so she's savvy. She is trying to get herself out. But you can see that this creature does eat people. So she knows what she's up against. Meanwhile, her dad is finally like doing something. He's finally getting it together to save his daughter because it's really the only thing that matters to him. So there's a lot of heart in this. There's also a lot of humor. There's, some good kills. It's a great, great movie. And this one, I'm going to take a look. Looks like you can watch this one for free on Pluto.
Oh, cool.
Pluto TV.
That sounds awesome. That's another one I haven't seen. So you got two on me now. That's pretty cool. I didn't recognize those thumbnails. I'm like, wait.
Well, yeah, those are both on the thumbnail. So that cool creature in the corner?
Yeah, exactly. Like, whoa. That sounds awesome. You said it's from South Korea? It's a foreign film?
Yes.
That's awesome. I like foreign films because they approach storytelling differently than the traditional Hollywood style.
I agree. And I think what's interesting about it is just like how horror movies adapt or not adapt, they kind of mutate, I guess, as the times change. They reflect what people of that time are afraid of. It's also really interesting to look at other countries' horror movies, because that reflects what that culture's afraid of and how fears are different, depending on, your culture, your environment. The things are different in different places, and you get some unique points of view that you wouldn't get to see if you were just restricted to watching American films. So like, this is very different. It's a very different family dynamic than most of us over here in the West have. The whole issue with things being dumped into the river. I mean, we have a bit of that here, but it's very prevalent to people who live in South Korea, like right there on the ocean. So yeah, I think it's really, really cool.
That's awesome. So for my next
I like
one,
the little Spider-Man dude in the background.
Oh, thank you. There's a Jawa too. Do you see that? He's holding a lightsaber.
Hey, Jawa. He looks like one of those guys from Phantasm.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. I dig it.
So my next one is from 2005, and this one's available on Amazon Prime in Canada, at least. So it might be available there too in America. It's called The Descent. I'm sure you've heard of this one.
Very good movie. Very good.
Oh, this one's so good. This one's really good. I started the story one way, and like halfway through, it totally shifts gears. But it doesn't feel like jarring or forced or anything like that. It's just so natural, because this group of women, they go off on this like retreat, and they want to go caving, and they end up going to this remote location that hasn't even been like mapped out before. Like, it's totally just like isolated, and they go in the cave, and as if getting lost in a cave isn't bad enough, they have to fight off these monsters that inhabit the cave inside. So this has some of the best jump scares, especially the one part when she's looking around and all of a sudden it's just right there. You know what I'm talking about, that one scene? Like, I jump every time and I know what's coming. Like, this movie's really good for story too. It's not just about like the gore, even though the gore is fantastic because it's all practical effects. Because these monsters, they are scary. And I haven't seen a movie like this where the monsters actually creep me out, because they got like this Gollum look or like this orc kind of look, like Lord of the Rings.
Really, really creepy. They
Yeah.
are like all hairless, and they are human enough, but it's just I think when people see like the human forms distorted, that fucks them up on a different level entirely. And these are somewhat human, but distorted enough that it just really gets under your skin. Like when people see things like The Grudge and The Ring, or any movie where there's like even zombie movies, it's like that whole body horror thing.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's so good.
Sweet, dude. Denisha Lane and Fairpoint Station are here.
Yeah, let's catch up on the chat for a second. Hi, everyone. Hi, Gory. In the Queen is here. Hi, Denisha. And then Fairpoint Station, a cave of wonders, but without all the treasure at Aladdin and a happy ending. Yeah, that's pretty much the same. And fun fact, this one actually has 2 different endings, depending on which one that you've seen. There's the UK version, and then there's the American version. And I prefer the UK version.
Have a hard time not having a happy ending.
I know, and that's why I don't like the sequel, because it totally goes with the American version. It's like, no, because it was such a good ending before. And I don't want to take much if you haven't seen it, but try and find the UK version.
It's got both, so you can't go wrong.
Totally. Yeah, that's awesome. So that's The Set in a nutshell.
Nice. All right, I've got so many. It's like, which one am I going to choose next? I don't know if I'll have time for all. I'm going to follow your lead and pick another British film, because the last one you picked, I believe, is Neil Jordan did that one. Could be wrong. But that was a great British film. And what I love about that movie too is you have a nearly, I think, almost entirely female cast, which is pretty badass. And the horror amongst the women is almost as intense as what's going on with the monsters. Great movie. But I've got another one for you. This is Attack the Block. And it's cool because a lot of creature features happen out in the wilderness and places where, you expect to have monsters. This happens in South London, in a giant apartment complex, which is cool because like that's kind of like the what's the word for it? It's like the harder part of town, like that's the place where you see like, drug deals happening, and, people don't have as much money, and people are more hard up, and it's more just crime ridden. And these kids who are kind of neglected, led by John Boyega, who is from the Star Wars movies, they've kind of raised themselves up on the streets. Nick Frost is in this as a drug dealer. Yeah, they're pretty scrappy. They're pretty badass. They've had to survive a lot as it is, and being able to survive South London, uh, kind of puts them in a place to be able to survive these aliens that end up attacking their block, that end up attacking their neighborhood. And I think, yeah, it's one of those things where it has a lot to say, because on the one hand, it's like, these kids have had to grow up fast, but it actually has given them everything they need to survive the situation. It's got a lot of humor in it. It's got a lot of action. This is just like bam, bam, bam. It's pretty much nonstop action. And the kids in this are really awesome. And it's kind of like these kids, they are almost like invisible. They're invisible to their own parents. They're kind of lost, and they get to be heroes in this movie, which is really fun and exciting, and you root for them.
That's awesome. I've actually seen this one, and I agree. This movie is both hilarious and it's action packed, and it does a good job of going back and forth. And the effects are really good too. There's a lot more CGI, but for aliens, it's kind of like forgivable, especially when it looks good. Like, there's a lot of good scenes in this. Like, oh, yeah, and I agree. This
is on
kind of movie
Star.
with a lot of likable characters too, so you do want to root for them. Like some movies, you're like, oh my god, kill these people, but not this one.
Even though they're tough, they're still kids.
Yeah,
One is like 12, I think. They're kids. They're not even really like older teenagers. They're kids. So they are, even though they're tough, they're scrappy kids. They're still vulnerable. So it's kind of like, I think, I guess a more modern, more intense version of movies like that from the 80s, like Monster Squad and Goonies and stuff. Like these kids can hold their own, but I think you worry for them extra just because they're children.
Yeah, the whole aspect about kids being in peril. That's why I think a lot of those movies succeed, because that's like a pretty universal thing for both kids and parents. Like, it's just pretty scary. Especially, that's why I think like Stranger Things and shows like that are so popular, because the whole kids in peril thing. A lot of Stephen King books like that too, actually.
Yeah. But yeah, that movie definitely treats the kids like adults. So anything can happen.
That's true. And it's funny because they talk just like kids would talk. They're dropping F-bombs.
Yeah,
smoking drugs, like drinking.
When their parents aren't around.
Realistically, I hate when parents are like, "Oh, kids don't act like that." You don't know what kids are like when they leave, when parents leave the room.
It's a good portrayal of kids from South London. I'm not from London, but I've been to London enough times. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. So
where are you from again? Sorry, you said last time. I'm sorry, I have a horrible memory.
Suffolk is about 3 hours away from London. So it's pretty close. So I went to London a lot, like, for school trips or just for, other lots of things.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Just like here, sometimes you need to go to the big city for stuff. I go to Seattle a lot because I live in Washington. There's always some dumb reason you have to go to London.
Let's see. Let's catch up with the chat real quick. Because a bunch of people just don't know. I'm excited. There's 6 people here, and everyone wants to talk. Movie Massacre says British movies are very pretty.
He's one of my bestest friends. He's coming over to my house this weekend. He's visiting. He's from England too. He's from Sheffield.
I like the animation in your videos, man. They're really cool. If you guys haven't seen it, he's got an animated channel, so it's interesting because not everyone does that. And it's good animation too.
With him too. We did Frankenhooker over on his channel.
Oh, that's cool.
We did the fun facts.
He says British movies are very gritty. A lot don't get releases over here. Fairpoint Station says Council Housing E.T. Red Dawn. Tatum says, hey, beautiful girl, Gory. Hi, Mr. Flickster. Movie Massacre says the favorite British film is Dead Man's Shoes. Incredible movie. Hard to watch, though. Ooh, interesting. Why is that?
A really good deep dive into Dead Man's Shoes over on Ryan Hollinger's channel. Really good. That's another underrated movie that not enough people have seen. And again, I think when you watch a lot of Western movies, sometimes you're not prepared for other cultures. In British movies, they are not afraid of a dark or nihilistic ending. They're not afraid to gut punch you. That happens in a lot of British movies, and Dead Man's Shoes is one of them. It's not afraid to give you a big gut punch right before the end, but it's worth it. It makes you feel something. It makes you think about things. So it's a good movie.
just like that it said, I couldn't believe that the first time I saw the UK version because it was different. The version I saw in theaters was the American version over here, but then I got the Blu-ray later on, and I was like, oh, I don't have it anymore. I lost it because I moved around a lot and stuff gets lost. But anyways, I could not believe it. Like, it blew me away. But I don't want to say too much because if you haven't
That's
seen it,
why
like,
I
it's
think
one
it's
of those. Oh my
exciting.
god!
Because you watch like movies from other countries, like France, like especially because France in the beginning shied away from gore, but France is all about the gore now, and that goes back to like Eyes Without a Face, which is exciting. Like looking at each country, like where they've grown from. Like Mexico has some great movies, like really just creative stuff that you don't find anywhere else in the world. And I got so excited when I discovered like Japanese horror when in the early 2000s, because I'd never seen like ghost movies where they couldn't just be busted or contained or exercised or whatever. And in their culture, they don't believe that's possible.
Yeah.
Once a ghost is on your track, it's going to keep following you until you're dead. And there's no way to kill it. It's just going to move on to somebody else. And that's a really scary idea. And it's too intense compared to like our ghost movies here in America, which is funny though, because when you look at American movies, which is interesting because I don't know if, like from another culture point of view, in America, people are more afraid of their next door neighbor than they are of ghosts. And I think that's why our serial killer movies and our slashers are really intense, sometimes compared to other countries, just because that's the thing we're really afraid of here. You can't go to a fucking movie theater or downtown without worrying that someone's going to fucking kill you. It's America.
It's America.
Yes. We don't have spiders with hit points. We just have really crazy neighbors.
No, it's true though. A lot of people don't really believe in like the paranormal and stuff like that in the Western culture because a lot of them haven't really had that kind of experience. But then there's other people, like you see the ghost shows, not all of those are BS. Like a lot of people really have seen ghosts and they really are haunted. Like there are places, there's like shows like Haunted Places in America and stuff like that. Like some of these places really are, like there's something going on there. Like I do believe in like the afterlife and like there's something like limbo, like I don't know, spirits and stuff like that. Like I do believe in ghosts.
It's such a complicated notion. So it weirds me out when you have a movie like The Entity, which is like a really cool exploration into the paranormal, and it's supposedly based on a real story. And then they try to freeze it at the end. Are you fucking kidding me? What the actual fuck? Where the fuck did that come from? And it doesn't fit with the rest of the movie. When in real life, she says that thing never stopped following her. That's scary. That's how you should end your movie, that it never left her alone. She never escaped. It probably broke her fucking down. That's how they should have ended the movie. But I think, especially in the 80s, American movies were really afraid to go that dark on the ending. They want people to like leave, in a good mood with the metal song about the movie or the rap song playing, like you smile on your face as you walk out the door. And I think it's changing a lot more with some of the more modern American films, especially in the 80s. Like that just wasn't going to happen, or the 90s.
Yeah. I agree with that. Catch it up with the chat real quick. Movie Massacre says, I hate London, way too busy for me.
I'm not a movie girl at all. I agree. I feel the same way about London that I do about Seattle. It's fun to visit, but it can stay there. I can handle bears and moose and crazy wildlife things in my town. I can't handle lots of people. People freak me out.
Let's see. Snarf Dog says he's loving the show. Thank you, man. Tatum says, Flickster, tell Gory it's me. Tatum, Riley, Heather, please. She didn't hear you, please.
No, honey, I see you. I see you. I'm the guest here, so I'm I see you though. I'm seeing the chat.
I would make you a moderator, but I don't know how.
Oh, it's super easy. So in the chat, there's 3 dots on the side, and then you just click Add Moderator. So you just go to where the message is, hover over it, and then click Add Moderator.
Oh, I see.
Dude, look at you. You're like officialing streamings and stuff.
It just says start, comment, and put
you're
user
going to have like
out.
streams that have like hundreds of people watching, and I'm going to remember your very first.
Oh, that's how you do that. I was wondering how you do that.
Oh my goodness, look at you. Look at you. Ah, you're doing all this stuff.
I can't be taught.
I'm so excited. I'm like a proud mom.
Denisha says, "Hey, watch Dark Ride. Gave you seen Gory, B, and Mr. Flickster. Dark Ride. I haven't heard of that one.
Dark Ride. I haven't seen that one. That sounds cool though. I'm gonna write it down.
Let's see, where is that one? Right here.
Dark Ride. I've got some weird movies to tell you about today, dude. I'm so excited. Like, when we hang out, it's gonna get weird. All right, so I found it. Looks like the movie she's telling you about is from 2006. It's about two murdered girls. A killer escapes from a mental institution and returns to his turf, the theme park attraction called Dark Ride.
That sounds awesome.
Creepy doll on the cover.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll check it. I'm adding that to my watch list. By the way, if you guys are on Letterboxd, I'm on there as Gory B Movie. I'm on Letterboxd like more than any other social media. I'm embarrassed to admit, just because it's just movies, no bullshit, and I love it. So, if you're on there, I pretty much will follow anybody I know on there because I just like to see what other people think about movies. What other people are watching. I'm really nosy. Like, I don't give a shit about what you ate today. Like, if you're going to post your sandwich on Instagram, I'm happy that you're eating. I'm happy. But I want to know what the last movie you watched is. Like right now. Like, no, you cannot leave to go to the bathroom. I need to know right now what the last movie you watched is. I have to know. I'm like all up in your business right now. Speaking of which, what was the last movie you watched?
Yeah.
No, you.
That was actually... that was the Relic, actually, because I watched a bunch of these monster movies just to catch up, because it's been a while. The next one I want to talk about, I'm going to go back in time a little bit. It's from 1968, and it's actually available on Tubi if you're in Canada. Nice. So it might be available there too. Tubi's kind of cool. If you don't know what it is, it's a free streaming service, like totally free, and it's good for having a lot of older movies. Like, it has the original Texas Chainsaw. It has like the Friday the 13th movies. Like, it's got so many movies I hadn't even heard of before that I still want to get to because my watch list keeps growing. Don't you hate that? Like, oh, my watch list.
I have a lot, and most of them are horror movies too. But I swear, like, most of the big gaps in my cinematic, I guess, education are like action movies. People are like, you haven't seen Rocky? No, I haven't seen Rocky. I haven't seen Rambo. I need to get on this. I know they're great movies. I need to see them.
Yeah, totally. The one that I'm talking about is I had to have at least one kaiju movie, like I said before, and it's Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters. Do you remember that one?
I remember a lot of Godzilla ones because I used to watch a lot of the Godzilla marathons, but those are ones I need to revisit as an adult because a lot of them I remember parts of them. Also the King Kong ones, like King Kong Lives. All I remember is the part where he like bites the guy in half. So I need to revisit them because I have only vague memories of them. So I'm sure I would still enjoy them as an adult.
Okay, well, just to refresh everyone's memory, this one was kind of like the Avengers before, like, the Avengers movie came out, because Godzilla fought all these monsters in previous movies, and then they all appear in this movie. Like, it's got Rodan, it's got Mothra, it's got King Ghidorah, it's got all of them. It's got a bunch of other ones too, and they just keep coming, and it's like a free-for-all. Godzilla's got to fight all these monsters, and they might even have Mechagodzilla. I haven't seen it in a while, but this is one that I had to mention because it stuck out in my mind because it was such a big deal when I discovered it. I'm like, wait a minute, they're all here? They all came together in one movie because they had the previous movies before, and it was just so cool. And I like the older movie special effects when it's the guys in the rubber suits walking around the miniatures.
Yes. My biggest thing with those movies is I like the ones where there's more monsters. A lot of the old kaiju movies, like the Godzillas, I feel like half the movies board meetings. And as a kid, I'd be like, all right, I'm going to go like get a snack. I'm going to go play in the other room. Call me when the monsters are fighting. So,
yeah, that's what I didn't like about these newer Godzilla movies. Like, they're okay. Like, King of the Monsters was all right because it had some of the older monsters too. But a lot of it's with all these new characters and they're like overlong. And I just don't care about these humans. Like, no one goes to these monster movies for all these human characters. You know what I mean? Like, they have like all these separate groups and they're trying to figure it out. And there's just too much, too little monsters. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I like these ones because they actually get their fair share of the screen time. Pardon?
I do remember Godzuki.
Yeah.
And I remember the one where Godzilla like farts into the air. There's some good times, man. Some good times.
So many good times. Yeah, for sure. So let's King of the Monsters.
Everyone's talking about how Rocky is the greatest love story.
All Monsters.
I don't need to see that movie to know that Rocky is the greatest love story of all time. I've seen enough Rocky and Bullwinkle to understand true love.
I like that. That's pretty good. So what's your next pick for creature feature?
I got you. I have a kaiju for you. I'm going to give you a kaiju. So this is one. I don't want to say the wrong country. So let me find out really, really quick.
No problem.
It's from Norway. So this is a Norwegian film, and it's
Okay.
really good. It's called Troll Hunter. This came out in 2010. And again, not a lot of people saw this one. So these guys who are making a documentary, it's like a found footage. They find this guy, and he's going out into the mountains, and he's just like a weird loner guy who believes he's hunting trolls. And the trolls are massive. They are kaiju size. They are fucking Godzilla size. They're hairy and scary. And he gets these like ultraviolet lights, and then they will turn to stone. And he has different ways of killing them and attacking them and such. But it looks real, the way they film it and everything, where they don't just have like these suddenly a great perfect shot of the monster. Like it looks like something somebody filmed, out in the woods, but it's not super shaky cam and distracting. It just, you kind of get immersed in this world, and you start to believe it. Like you start to believe that this is possible in Norway, that there's these giant trolls, and it's fascinating, and it's a really good watch.
I haven't actually seen that before, but I have seen like trailers for it and stuff like that, and there's YouTube videos about different movies, right? So it does look really cool. I looked into it. It looks amazing, but unfortunately, it's one of those white whales for me, and I just can't seem to find it for the life of me.
I'm gonna see if I can find it for you. All right.
Oh, you're gonna be my captain.
Again, on Letterboxd, it has links to Just Watch, so you can just click on there. It is available. Oh, here you go. You can watch it for free if you have the Roku channel, which anybody can watch that on. It's on. It's for free on Tubi. It's
nice.
for free on HBO, Pluto, on Plex. So it's for free in a lot of places.
Movie Massacre agrees with you. Troll Hunter is so much fun.
There you go. He knows what's up. All right, there's a
link. Thank you very much. Yeah, feel free to post whatever you want, because there's no restrictions. There's no rules here. We're just kind of going with the flow.
Yeah. I'm going to say it like Rob Zombie. Yeah.
I'm going to go back to another sci-fi like creature film, like an alien film. This is from 2000. You've probably heard of this one before. Pitch Black.
Yes.
Not many people have heard of this one, though. Like, no one really talks about it nowadays. It's not even that old. It's so good, because it's one of those movies that starts off like this science fiction like film, and then all of a sudden, like halfway through, it shifts gears, kind of like Psycho does. But it doesn't feel forced or anything like that. And you're like, oh crap, how are they going to stay on this planet with all this darkness and all these aliens that, especially some of the stuff they do, like it's good, a good story with the character development too, because they have to work together, and it's all about trust. Because you got Riddick, played by Vin Diesel. I think this was his first film, but don't quote me on that. Because this is before Fast and the Furious, eh?
I think so. It's the first thing I remember seeing him in, because I remember I was in college when this came out, and I'd never heard of him. And you're right. I mean, it does have a twist in it, because at first it's all like transporting this prisoner, and you're like, okay, he's got these freaky deaky eyes and stuff, and you're really focused on that. And then there's this other element that comes into it, which is really like cool. And the world is so immersive and so like big. It's got such great world building in it, It
does go with the tension and the suspense too, because they have their lights at first, but eventually, batteries die and fire only lasts so long. So as the stakes get higher, they start to wonder, how are they going to get some sort of a light source so they can protect themselves? Because it's kind of like Jaws, except you can't get out of the water.
Oh, Danny and Movie Massacre are having a love fest.
Farford says we should do a 4-way collab with Tony and Massacre. That sounds pretty cool. I'm down for that. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let me know when you guys are available. This one was directed by David Towie, and he went on Chewie. Sorry if I butchered that. But yeah, he did a lot of the other Riddick movies after that. But those ones aren't so much horror. Like that kind of franchise kind of drifted further into science fiction as it went along. But This one is totally a creature feature, especially if you've seen it. Like, it's got the gore, it's got the scare, it's got good practical effects, it's got good CGI for the time. Especially, I like the one scene when the guy's drinking the wine and then he blows the fire and you see the ball surrounded by him. It's like, holy crap, because you don't realize how many is there, right? Like, this one really plays with that fear of the dark and fear of the unknown. And I like when movies are more psychological like that. It's not all about that jump scare, that false
And
scare.
our
Oh, I
perception
hate
of
false
people too. Like, I think we're introduced to Riddick as a prisoner, and you have certain preconceived notions about, like, what did
yeah.
he do? You know, what is he capable of? Is he, you know, a ruthless killer? And I think he surprises you.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I mean by the character development. He starts off one way, but then you see, oh, maybe he's not such a bad guy. But then he keeps doing these things that are kind of shady. So you're always questioning, like, oh, wait a
Yeah,
minute. Does he have like an ulterior motive? Like, what is his angle? Like, he's always the wild card. You never know what he's going to do. He's just so unpredictable. And that's so much fun. Movies these days are just so predictable.
I agree. That's why I tried to pick some deep cuts for you here.
Yeah.
Movie Massacre mentioned a good one in the chat, another English one called Creep, not the American Creep with the, you know, the found footage one, but this one is really good too. And that's about a woman who she misses her train in the underground, like the subway. And yeah, there's this like little golem dude, kind of like in The Descent, and there's a whole like big world building backstory, but that one gets pretty freaky because she's stuck in the London Underground like completely by herself, which I haven't seen anything quite like that since American Werewolf in London. Because yeah, it's scary down there when it's all empty because you're not used to seeing it like that. So that is a good movie.
That sounds awesome. I haven't seen that one before.
It's a good one.
Awesome.
That doesn't count as my pick. I was doing that for Rich.
No. I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying that sounds really interesting. I'm always up for movies that I haven't heard of before because I like going into stuff cold. Nowadays, trailers show way too much, and you feel like you've seen the movie after you've seen so many trailers.
I agree. I only watch teaser trailers just because I don't like being spoiled. Yeah. So I got you I don't know. This is one that I wasn't sure if it would be counted as a creature feature, but it's got a good monster in it. It's got a unique monster in it that I guarantee you have never seen before. And it's not even one of those monsters where you're like, oh, yeah, but it's basically a vampire. It's not basically anything. It's something you've never seen before, except for maybe in your craziest Lovecraftian nightmares. It's so good. And it's got my favorite kind of kill in it. It's got penectomies in it. So, like, that's cool. But anyway, let me back up. This movie is Spring by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, who they did Resolution and they did The Endless. And I feel like this movie really fits into this like kind of Lovecraftian type world they've built. Like, I think Spring really is a nice, fits nicely in that. But this guy, he's, you know, young 20 something, and he's been taking care of his sick mother for so long that he's kind of cut off from the world. And when she finally passes away, he doesn't really know what to do with himself. So he goes to Italy. He takes himself on holiday and he meets a woman where he's just like gobsmacked, like just head over heels. And this movie is very romantic while also being really gory and being really scary and funny. But yeah, he really likes her and he wants to take her out. And she's like, yeah, I'll have sex with you, but I'm not going on a date with you. That's not going to happen. And he's like, that's backwards. That's not what I expected. And he keeps pursuing her, trying to get to know her and stuff. And you find out that there's a lot more to this person than he realizes. And you know she's some kind of monster, but you don't know exactly what. And it's not something that's ever been in another movie. And it's so cool and interesting. The practical effects are amazing. There's some really satisfying kills in it. And like I said, it's a great love story too. So really, really good movie.
I love when movies have original monsters, when they get creative like that. That's one of the things about The Relic that I like. Going back to that one real quick, that monster was just so original, and it was something I hadn't seen before. It was just so shocking the first time that you see it. Because yeah, there's sharks, and you know, there's the CGI dinosaurs and stuff like that. But then you have this totally different thing. You're like, whoa, what is this? Like, just out of the blue, it's just amazing too. So that's one of the things I like. Catching up with the chat real quick. Zanduku Tenchi
on Shudder and Tubi for free.
Ooh, awesome. Zanduku Tenshi is asking, what about Virus 1999? Is that a creature feature? I'm not familiar with that one.
That's the one with Jamie Lee Curtis. It's like an alien movie. I think Dustin Hoffman's in it too. I don't remember exactly, but I've seen it.
All right, that's awesome. Tatum suggests The Faculty and Lens
Oh,
Plastic.
I'll suggest that one next.
This is obscure and underrated and things that people haven't really heard of before. And these ones are kind of like cult classics. So I don't really count The Faculty, and I didn't count Lake Placid. So.
I tried to pick ones that I didn't think a lot of people knew about.
Exactly. That was the whole point, just like we did with the slashers.
But it's hard with horror people. Like a lot of times they're like, no, I have seen that. I love it. So it's weird. I know this one. So this one I actually have on my list, Rich. I'll tell you about this one really quick. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying this movie is low budget as fuck. This movie is so low budget. They have a mental institution, and it's clearly a racquetball court. But there's some charm to this, man. There is some charm to this movie. It looks like it was made on pennies, but the creature, holy balls, that is an amazing practical effects creature. So this movie came out in 1990. It's called The Suckling, and it's dark, but it's so funny because it's about abortion, but I honestly cannot tell you if this movie is pro-life or pro-choice. Like it's just what it is. But this woman, her boyfriend is taking her to this brothel that also does abortions, and she doesn't want to have an abortion, but he says, we'll just go in there and talk to them. And then they basically roofie her and give her one without her consent, which that's horrifying as it is. And then they do it with a coat hanger. It's so crude. And then they flush it down the toilet. It goes into the sewage system where there's toxic waste. And then the fetus grows. It becomes like massive, like Bigfoot size. And it has all these giant teeth. And it's so freaky looking. And it goes into the brothel and starts killing people one by one in horrific ways. And they can't escape because it wraps the entire building in like this membrane, like a placenta. So they can't get out. But yeah, it's really low budget. The acting is but the creature is awesome. And this is one of those movies where even when it is really like bad, it's fun. And it's cheesy. It's one of my favorite like go-to cheesy movies, but genuinely like no cheesiness about it. The monster in this looks awesome. And it's such a unique story. It's like it's one of a kind.
The movie does sound very
aborted fetus.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the movie does sound very unique. I haven't heard of that before. The Suckling. I'm gonna have to look for that one. Movie Massacre is thanking you down below.
Yeah, it's a movie that is not afraid to be at all offensive. But I don't know. I love it. Like it doesn't. I don't find it offensive, and it's essentially a revenge story. This creature was flushed into toxic waste, and it's about to make everybody pay. But it does some horrific shit. There are some horrifying kills in this movie, and some people who I think wish they were dead. So it's a good movie.
Oh yeah. So it's the best, especially when the practical effects make you wince. Like not a lot of movies make me cringe, but there's a few things like fingernail stuff and like eyeball stuff and like needles.
There's definitely some things in here that made me cringe, but you need to watch it.
Yeah, that's cool. Like that movie Slither.
Where do you find it?
I don't count that for this list, but that's one of those movies. It took me a few tries. I couldn't even watch it all the way through. Slither. Oh, it grossed me out.
If you think Slither is bad, like this will make you like permanently cross your legs for the rest of your life. Like this thing is so horrifying.
Really,
like, I'm so glad I saw it like after I had children because it's scary. It's so scary. I remember when I was like, when you're pregnant, your hormones like mess with you. And I was so excited to get like this box set on DVD of the Alien Quadrilogy. And I started watching and I start bawling. I'm like, oh my God, because the whole idea like sunk in, like this thing is going to burst out of me. If I had saw The Suckling, I don't think I would have made it. Suckling's scary, dude.
Horror Addicts is saying Feast is fun.
Damn it, I have that on my list too. Will you guys? All right, you do one, and then I'll tell you about Feast.
Okay, for my next one, I'm going to go back to the Lovecraftian theme. This one's a little bit newer, but no one really talks about it, and I'm really surprised because I really like this one, and I think it does good with suspense and the world building, and there's some character development too. Like it's got a lot of good stuff. It's from 2020. The one I'm talking about is Underwater with Kristen Stewart.
That was a a good one. Yeah. And it had like that
And
Lovecraftian element. And she's a badass in that.
she is too. And this one's actually available on Disney Plus, believe it or not, because it's a Fox movie.
Yeah, that was what I kind of wrote off just because the trailer looked like life. It looked like so many recent movies. And then Danny saw it and he was like, no, this one's actually really good. And it got nominated for an Oscar. And yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's one of those pleasant surprise movies because the trailer actually didn't show too much. It was very obscure. So it kind of piqued my interest. And then when I did see it, it was really surprising because it goes in different directions. It's kind of like the movie Sphere from the 90s, but it's got more
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
A lot of like Sunshine's another one where it's not what you think it is at all. Event Horizon. There's a few from the 90s where it's like, okay, I didn't know this was what we were doing, but I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. For those who don't know, it was directed by William Eubank. It's about basically there's an accident at this oil rig that's down below. It's like 6 miles, it says in my notes here, down below, underwater, obviously. So it's really close to the bottom of the sea. And then as they are trying to figure out what's going on, they find out that it's not like a natural event and it's not some accident or something like that. There's actually monsters outside and they're trying to get inside. So then the place starts flooding and they have to try and get out. And talk about claustrophobic. Like I compare it to the Descent when it comes to that claustrophobia factor. Like this movie really gets intense with those close-ups, and then you have the water coming up. There's parts where they're just kind of like this, and there's only like this much space for them to breathe. Like, oh, it's intense. And then the CGI is really good. And I don't want to say too much about the monsters, but one monster in particular makes an appearance toward the end of the climax, and it's amazing and it's glorious. And I actually I gasped. I was like, you know what I'm talking about.
That's awesome.
So yeah, this is one of those very pleasant surprise movies because you go into it with low expectations and you don't know too much about it, and then you're like, wow, this was great.
Awesome. Do you want me to tell you about Feast?
Yeah, let's go with Feast.
So this is a film by John Gallagher. If you're familiar with his stuff, he is like a splatter king. He's done all the Feast movies. He did Piranha 3DD. Like this guy loves his gore. And what I love about this movie, he also has his dad in it, who's a great character actor in a lot of horror films, Clu Gallagher, who was the dad in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. He's been in a few other things, but he plays a character that's in all of the Feast movies. I think there's 3. And they're all very different. My favorite by far, though, is the first one. And what I like about it is it does for creature features what I think Scream did for slashers, and that it subverts those expectations. It starts off with like these people narrowly evading these creatures that have like these massive teeth, and they're very inhuman and scary and fast. They get into this bar, and then this guy shows up, and they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "Who am I? I'm the guy who's going to save you." And then right then the creature bites his head off. And you know, this is not what you thought it was. It's got Jason Mewes in it. Like you cannot guess it gives you like a dossier on each of the characters. Like one of the people there, she's a waitress, and you know, she does sex work, and she has a little boy, and she's just trying to get out of town. And then there's Jason Mewes, and then there's a guy in a wheelchair. And so you're like, okay, this guy's going to die. That person's probably fine. No, you're going to be wrong. I'm just telling you right now, your guesses are wrong. You will not guess who lives and dies in this movie, because this movie is all about subverting those expectations. Nobody is safe, no matter how charming, innocent, likable they are. This movie is like taking everything you expect from a creature feature and turning it on its head. And it might be a little too dark at times for some people, but I really enjoy like pitch black humor. And this movie is pitch black. So I love it.
That's awesome. I love when movies subvert expectations like that, because too many movies these days, like I said before, they're just way too predictable. You can kind of call it in some horror movies. You're like, okay, these people are going to die. She might make it. But and usually there's the thing, like person in the parking lot, like at night. You're like, oh, they're going to get it.
It's so funny, and it's not afraid to be offensive. And it's for free on TV. So
too many people are too PC these days. What's wrong with you people? We can't talk to each other anymore, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, this movie's not afraid at all. Like it's the same thing with the Suckling. Like, I don't really care for any kind of movie that I feel is trying really hard to be offensive. Some of the Rob Zombie movies, I'm just like, okay, I get it. Like, and it almost feels like a desperate cry for attention. But when a movie is just like, no, I just want to tell this story and I don't really care what anyone thinks. That I respect. And that's what Feast is. That's what The Suckling is. It's just like, this was a cool idea for a scary movie. And I'm not really trying to think about anybody's, sensitive feelings or how it might, be politically correct or whatever. Like they just want to tell cool creature feature stories. And that's what those movies are.
Yeah, exactly. Then Koku Tenshi says David Cronenberg shivers. Parasites plus body horror plus sex zombies equals good time. I'm with you there, buddy.
Yeah, David Cronenberg's got some good ones. Brood's another good one.
Movie Massacre says Feast is perfection. It aims to offend on every level and nails it.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
That's cool, man. All right, for my next one is one that I'm surprised no one's really heard of before and no one really talks about. Because ever since I saw it in theaters, like this came out in 2002, and I still remember my theater experience going to see it, and it's just kind of stuck with me like over the years. It's called Reign of Fire.
I have seen that one. Yes, that one's it was different. I expected it to be because it came out not too long after Dragonheart with Sean Connery.
Yeah.
And I expected it to be something along those lines, or it also came out around the same time as the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and it's really not that. It's a lot darker than I expected.
This is way before Game of Thrones, too. Yeah.
And Christian Bale's in it, too, right?
Yeah, it's got Christian Bale, it's got Gerard Butler, and it's got Matthew McConaughey. And it was directed by Rob Bowman. Basically, this is like a post-apocalyptic dragon movie. If you can imagine that, if you haven't seen it before, it's all about like, what if dragons were still around today? It's actually kind of funny because this movie came out in 2002, and it takes place in the future, but it takes place in 2020. So I just thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, basically, it's what if dragons were the dominant. So what if dragons had taken over and they were the dominant species? And then it's all about people just trying to survive. These dragons are badass. Like these things are scary. The way they fly around, they're massive. They blow all this fire at you. The CGI is amazing. The practical effects are good. It's got a good story too, and it has that world building because there's that whole other element to it. It's not like a medieval story. And it's not like a time travel story where someone goes back in time and brings a dragon to the future, something like that. It's one of those, it's kind of like science fiction almost, or kind of like one of those zombie movies, but replace zombies with fire-breathing dragons.
Awesome.
So if you haven't seen it, it's on Disney Plus here in Canada, so it might be there too in the States. Oh, this movie's so good.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's got a lot of action in it too.
So much action. It's so epic. It's one of those ones, it's got a lot of heart to it too, because you feel the bond between this little colony and they're just doing whatever they can to survive. Like they're just trying to eat, they're just trying to find shelter. They're basically, basic human needs. So
yeah,
it's really interesting from that standpoint too. It's not just about the spectacle, which a lot of movies can't be about.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I thought it was going to be when I saw it. I thought it was going to be like a kind of a CGI, look what we can do kind of thing. And it really wasn't. It had it was very focused on the story and the characters. And the dragons were a fun part of that, but it wasn't a spectacle.
Yeah. Movie Massacre, I remember seeing it in theaters too. That's cool, man. I love when theater experiences stick with you like that. Even though movies come out like 10, 20 years ago, you think back, you're like, hey, that was a good time. Like Lord of the Rings. I remember seeing the original trilogy. That was like 2000.
Oh my God. Mostly the Lord of the Rings. I remember seeing Return of the King and I had to pee so fucking bad. And I'm like, I can't hold out. This is the ending. Oh, fuck. That wasn't the ending. Okay, it's almost over. Like 30 minutes later, I'm about ready to stop. I was like dying, and I was there we were taking my friend's dad out, so I didn't want to like abandon him. Like it's almost over. I can hold out. Oh God.
That's hilarious. What's your next pick? I'm just going through
my list. I got one for you. I'm gonna go crude now. I mean, I guess I already have gone crude. Oh well, that's just my nature. But Bad Milo. Have you heard of this one?
I've heard of it, but I have not seen it before.
I love Bad Milo. This movie is so cute. So I'm a sucker for puppets. It's the one thing that scares my husband to death, but I love puppets. There's a puppet in the movie. most likely I'm gonna fucking love the movie. So this movie is about a guy who is really like uptight. He's stressed all the time. His wife is trying to have a baby. He literally gets treated like shit at work. They move his office into like the bathroom, and he's just stressed all the time. And he's constantly like on the toilet, and they say it's just stress. And finally, one day he passes out on the toilet. And what happened? Thanks, baby. What happens? A little demon who's fucking cute as hell named Milo comes out of his ass. And what does Milo do? Milo gets shit done. Pardon the phrasing. But Milo, like, he's stressed about people at work. So Milo goes and kills the people at work, you know, and essentially it's almost like it's really funny. It's really funny. But there is some, like, I like when there's kind of a metaphor to it. It's that idea of like, if you keep things bottled up, eventually you've got to release that, you know? Because, you know, it's like your inner demons. And I like how I think in a lot of movies, the solution would be, well, you got to kill it. And he can't because it's part of him. You know, Milo goes right up his butthole as soon as he's done killing too. But no, he talks to someone. They're like, have you tried befriending it? And he's like, what the fuck? So there's a whole sequence of him like feeding Milo, cuddling Milo while they watch a movie. And I kind of love that, how like the parts of you that are maybe a little broken, how you don't necessarily need to be fixed. You need to embrace the parts of you that need a little extra love, you know? But yeah, and how stress isn't, you know, stress comes from lots of things. He's also stressed about his wife having a baby. He loves his wife. He doesn't want his wife killed, but you know, stress isn't necessarily a bad thing, you know? And so like this movie has some good metaphors to it. But like I said, if you don't want all that, if you just want to have a good time about a butt demon, this movie's got you covered. I will say my son is not easily scared by movies, but he's terrified of jump scares. This movie scared the crap out of him because there's a scene where they're doing a colonoscopy, and then Milo's like, ah! Right at the camera. Oh. Yeah, my son noped right the fuck out. Parenting, I'm doing a great job.
That's awesome. I love a good dark comedy too, because that blend of horror and humor is not easy to do. Like Scream is pretty good at it, and I don't really count it as a creature feature. It's more like a zombie film. But Shaun of the Dead is really good at that too. Because there's times when that movie is actually scary when the guy's getting ripped apart by that whole horde of zombies. But then like a moment later, like it's just you're laughing your ass off because it's just so funny. You know what I mean?
And this movie is weird. It's on HBO Max, but I've actually found it at the dollar store. Sometimes you can find really good movies at the Dollar Tree. Like, I love this movie. I paid full price for it, but I bought extra copies at the Dollar Tree just to give people. Like, hey, have you seen this Butt Demon movie? Well, it's your lucky day there, partner.
Yeah, Movie Master agrees with you. Bad Milo is a blast, especially with friends. It's a damn good laugh.
It's pretty much like you come to my house and I'm like, have you seen Bad Milo? There you go, buddy.
That was it for my list. But going off the top of my head, you mentioned Mimic before, and when you said that, the movie that I thought of automatically was Species. That was another one from the 90s. It has a few sequels that were directly to DVD, but not too many people talk about that one. It's all about this woman. She's kind of like a succubus, but she wants men to have sex with her, basically. And then right after she has sex, she gets pregnant. And then she wants to keep reproducing so she could take over the world kind of thing. And this movie is really good at that suspense because I forget the name of the actress that plays it. But
Natasha Henstridge. But it's really
she was like a model.
They show her growing up, and Michelle Williams in her very first role plays her as a child.
Oh, wow. That's cool. That's a little fun fact.
Ask Rich for Movie Massacre. I'm great with the fun facts. Want some more movies? I got more.
Yeah, let's go.
How about I give you some short rapid fire ones I don't want to talk too deeply about. Rapid fire short that you can watch, I believe, for free on YouTube. It's a short film called Tree Venge. I fucking love this movie. I watch this movie every year during the holiday season, but essentially the trees get really pissed off about being cut down for Christmas. So they just decide to kill everybody. They stomp on a baby. They kill people with Christmas tinsel. It's fucking brutal. But in the beginning, it's so sad because like the saplings, they're like, oh, it's a sapling. You know, like it's so like the way they film the trees being cut down. It's so grisly, and you see the sap coming out like blood. And then the second half is all the trees getting revenge, and it's so much fun. Another one, I think a lot of people know about it, but I don't think a lot of people have actually seen it. One of my all-time favorite movies, one of the first movies I ever saw, was the original Fly. People
Yeah.
love the Cronenberg one. I love the Cronenberg one. It's about completely different stuff, though. The Cronenberg one is about like the horror of like disease and the horror of old age. The original Fly, it's kind of like having to do the absolute hardest thing, like having to hurt somebody that you love because they asked you to. You know, it's a love story. It's tragic. The characters are phenomenal. It's scary when it needs to be. It is such a good movie. It's got Vincent Price in it. If you have not seen it, please do yourself a favor and watch that movie. It's so good.
I have
The
seen
Bay.
that one. A lot of hold on one second. I have seen that one. And a lot of people don't know that the Cronenberg movie is actually a remake. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that one.
I know that's what kills me. I love that one too. I'm not saying that one's not good. I'm just saying this one's also good. Like,
Good on
don't just
different level.
dismiss it like as in, you know, well, it's better. They're just different movies. They're so different. They're about such different things. But
Yeah.
that movie, it's heartbreaking and scary, and it's so good.
Yeah, that's amazing. What else do you have?
The Bay. So this is a found footage movie. Who directed this one? Somebody, yeah, Barry Levinson, who's done like big movies like Rain Man and stuff. He did this one.
Wow.
But it's one that I think got kind of overlooked, but it's about this small community. It's kind of like Amity in Jaws, like a small kind of like seaside community. And you follow a lot of different cameras. So there's a lot of different characters, and you see the story unfold over their video cameras. And it starts off with like people getting sick because there's something in the water. And you're like, okay, the water's probably poisoned or something. No, there's actual creatures in the water, and you can see them like under people's skin and stuff. And and there's a big parade coming, kind of like in Jaws. So nobody's really talking about what's going on because they want to keep it hush hush just until the holiday's over. And by then it's too fucking late. And so this has got great body horror in it. It's a good use of found footage, and it's not limited to just like one group of people that you get sick of, because you get lots of different perspectives. Because the idea is like everyone had their video cameras with them because it was the holiday weekend. And so these are the things that were caught. And so you kind of follow like a lot of different stories, but it's really good and really scary.
That's awesome. I thought of another one real quick. It's on Shudder. It's called Boar. It's an Australian film, and basically
that one's so good.
It's about this warthog, and it's about this group of like tourists, and they're trying to run away from this thing. And it keeps chasing them, and they're stuck in the outback. And it's one of those like survival type horror movies. Like it's also got that man versus nature aspect. Like it's not just the boar that they worry about. And then they run into like people in the outback, and you can't really trust like everyone about that too. And it's got like that theme, like monsters are people. I mean, people are monsters too, kind of thing. But I really like the practical effects for this boar. Like, I know what you're thinking. If you haven't seen this movie, you're like, why would I be scared of a warthog? But this thing is massive. I cannot believe the size. Like, huge. Yeah, like almost like a triceratops, like that, or like a rhino for like modern times, I guess.
And it's all practical. It's one of the things that I really liked about this movie is there's zero, like I think there might be towards the end, but it's predominantly all practical. And Bill Moseley's in it. John Jarrett from the Gory movies is in it.
Yeah.
And I really liked Nathan Jones. I get my husband tells me he's a wrestler. I don't really know him from wrestling, but he was really funny in the movie. He sings that like Ice Ice Baby song. He's really funny.
Yeah. But that one's so good.
Yes,
I'm trying to think about stuff on the spot. What else you got?
Another one, if you want zombies or not zombies, if you like werewolves, why not Werewolf Sheep from New Zealand? There's a great horror comedy about werewolf sheep called Black Sheep. If you like a lot of New Zealand humor, like What We Do in the Shadows or anything by Peter Jackson, you'll love Black Sheep. Check that out. The next one I want to tell you about is called Exists, and it's by the same guy who did the Blair Witch Project, because I don't know why nobody's seen this fucking movie. But my biggest complaint with all Sasquatch movies is you never see the freaking Sasquatch. They never show you the Sasquatch. This movie shows you the Sasquatch, and it's cool because the Sasquatch has a reason for what it's doing. I think they accidentally kill its baby. And so it's doggedly following these people who are lost out in the woods. And it's really scary. And you get to see it up close and personal.
That's cool. Is that like one of those wilderness movies too? Like they're out in the snow and they have to try and survive kind of thing?
They're out in the middle of the woods, but yeah, like the
Yeah.
poster for it's by Eduardo Sanchez, and the poster for is just a tree through the middle of a car. And I believe this one's found footage, but it was really good. I mean, it's kind of low budgety and stuff. I think it was only a few movies after they did Blair Witch, but it's really good. I really like. I like that. It's a Sasquatch movie where I get to see the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Another one.
Oh, hold on a second, real quick. Zankoku says, I like Boar the first time when it was called Razorback. Ha ha ha. Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. And then Nathan Jones teamed up Undertaker Seattle at WrestleMania.
Yeah, Danny knows all about the wrestlers. I know him from Boar.
Danny says Sand is hilarious.
The Sand, that's about you know that game you play as a child, the Don't Touch the Floor because it's hot lava?
Oh, yeah.
That's what the sand is. The sand is infected by some alien species. So if you touch the sand, it literally dissolves your body. And Jamie Kennedy's in it. And it's just really it's kind of like a So Bad It's Good, but it knows what it's doing. So it's very tongue-in-cheek. It's really funny.
That's awesome. It kind of reminds me of like Idle Hands or something like that. One of those tongue-in-cheek movies where it's not too serious, but you can buy into the premise because it's hilarious.
Yeah, that one's a good one. Good cheesy one.
Movie Master says, speaking of wrestling, he actually spelled it like that. I'm taping Fighter Fest. Can't wait to watch it. All right, cool, man. Do you have anything else?
Oh, I do. I feel bad because I have so many.
Go ahead. You're the guest here.
Grabbers is a really good one. It's about like a big tentacly type monster. It's an Irish film. And essentially, the only way to kind of save yourself from these monsters is by just getting full on piss, like getting drunk, you know? So everyone in this bar, they're just getting hammered and then they're trying to fight monsters. So it's really, really funny. But it also has great effects and stuff. And it's a good monster movie. One I know you guys know about, but you need to watch it, is Critters 2. Critters 2 is the best Critters movie. Like, I'm not even being weird here. It is the best Critters movie. It's also a great Easter movie, but I think Critters is good. But I think Critters 2 is so much better. The characters are more developed. The creatures look better. They do more with the critters. It's really funny. It's just great. If you have passed over the Critters franchise, or maybe you saw the first one and you quit, give 2 a chance.
I think that's the one that first had the giant like critter ball and it was going around down the street. I love that. They're just so over the top in the kills and the puppetry like that. Like you said, it gets better and better because they had a few more years. It's kind of like Child's Play 2. Like now with the origins out of the way, the critters can do critters. They can just get right to the point. And that's the cool thing about direct sequels, like the part 2s. So let's see. Horror Addict says, critics and Raphael's voice. Where do they come up with this stuff? That's nice. I immediately could see that in my head. All right. So do you have anything else?
I do.
All right. Cool.
Really bad.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so this is
last time we only had like 6 or 7 movies, you know what I mean? So hey, by all means.
I was good and did my homework this time. So this is my favorite B movie, and I admit it's low budget. I admit it's kind of lazy in places, but I fucking love this movie. This is a movie I watch when I'm sick, when I'm sad, when I'm pissed off. If I don't know what I want to watch, I watch this movie. I watch this movie so fucking much, and it's Uninvited. I fucking love this movie. That's so this is about a cat that's like experimented on. It's by Graydon Clark. And this cat it escapes from this laboratory. These girls on spring break find it and they bring it aboard a boat with them. But when the cat is threatened, it pukes up a smaller cat. And then that cat runs around and bites people. And you're not even safe. Like, you're like, oh, you can just punt the baby cat. No. Because if it bites you, you're infected. And if it touches any of your food, the food's infected. And it's just a lot of fun. I just love it. The movie the title is the only thing I don't like because it does not prepare you for the movie about the cat that pukes up a smaller cat. But this movie, B-movie gold.
That movie is so good. I'm really glad you brought that up. I can't believe I actually forgot about that movie. I should have wrote that down for my notes. Like, oh, I'm embarrassed. I should have knew that movie.
I have it autographed on my wall.
Before on your channel. So right there. That is a really good one. Ooh, that's cool.
And I ordered that online from Graydon Clark. And so if you look at it, it's got lines in it like his printer was running out of ink, and it wasn't even a proper 8x10 size. And at first I was, it also said on the website, like, put a message on it, or put your name. No, I think it just says, it just says best wishes and his name. Like, he obviously didn't even read it. But then I thought about it. I'm like, that's somehow perfect because this movie is so lazy. Like, they changed the cat at the end. It's great, but it's charming. It's charming and creative and really fun.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say it's so bad it's good, because I wouldn't even say it's a bad movie, even though like the effects aren't really the best and the acting is not really the best, but it's just so enjoyable. Like, I don't know, it's got that charm, like that niche to it. I don't know.
Comfort movie.
Comfort movie. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That's awesome. A Movie Master agrees that Uninvited is a gem. And Horror Addict says, a not so good movie with a great name is Snake Out of Compton. That's hilarious. Thanks for the suggestion. Then we have Mr. Boogans. Isn't it great?
Oh, the Boogans.
But it is fun with friends. Yeah.
That's another one where it's cheesy, like Spookies. A lot of ones that are cheesy and they're really enjoyable. I mean, they may not have the biggest budget. They may not make a lot of sense, but they're so enjoyable that it's like you're missing out if you don't give it a chance. Like, not everything you watch needs to be like fucking Schindler's List. You can have a good time with a movie. A movie can just be a good time, Like, don't get so bent out of shape about Jason X. Just grab some pizza, grab some beer, get some buddies, and enjoy the fuck out of that movie.
Exactly. It's like a roller coaster. You're just there for the ride, for the thrill of it all. And then after you're like, oh, we'll go again.
There are movies that should challenge you, like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. They're not meant to be fun. There are movies that are supposed to make you think, and there are movies that are just a good time.
Yep.
I'm not spooky. That's my Yuki impression. I got a couple more for you, a couple werewolf ones that people don't talk about that much. But again, these are at the bottom of my list because you're more likely to have heard of these. Bad Moon, which is based on a terrific book called Thor.
Love that movie. Yeah,
love that movie. And that one, the short version is from the point of view of the family dog, who realizes when the mom's brother comes to stay with him that he's a werewolf, and he's torn between protecting his family and doing what he's told, which is don't bark at family members, but he knows they're in danger, and obviously the dog has no way of telling them. And the movie's really, really good. Another good werewolf one that a lot of people missed out on was Howl. Really
thinking of that with the train.
Yeah, it was on a train. Really creepy, some good cinematography. It's a British movie. A good werewolf one. Not a lot of people have seen. Another one you might have seen it. You might not. I remember the trailers for this one were dog shit. Like, I thought this movie looked like shit. Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse is so fucking funny. I watched this movie so much. It's by Christopher Landon, who also did Happy Death Day. He also did Freaky. So if you like his sense of humor, give this movie a chance. It's really funny.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
Again, he's a good one for blending the humor and the horror, but you can still take it seriously at the same time. Like, it's not like a straight up spoof or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It
had great
characters. He does that every time, and he's very good. He's done that like four or five times now with his films. So
yeah,
I'm excited to see what he does next. Like, he's starting to become one of my favorite like horror directors. Like, over time, I know it's kind of early to say that for his career.
I
but
know what he's doing.
Every time I hear his name, I'm like, ooh, something new. Because he actually has these new ideas.
He's producing a movie. He's not directing it, but he is producing it. It was his idea, called Time Cut, and it's being described as Back to the Future meets Scream. Like, just take my damn money. That sounds so good.
That sounds so good. It's my cat's bugging me. Sorry. This is Elsa.
Hi,
baby. Hello. She always wants my attention when I'm on the phone. She did this last time too on the other stream.
I love kitties. I got four more that you probably have heard about, but I just want to throw them out there. One is Monkey Shines. It's a George Romero movie that doesn't get talked about enough, but it's got a guy who's a paraplegic, and he's given a monkey that was supposed to help him with, around the house and stuff. And the monkey gets a really strange attachment to him and starts attacking people close to him because it gets jealous. Really good movie. Tusk. is a
Ooh, that
Kevin
is a good
Smith
one.
movie, and a lot of people didn't watch it, but it's so creepy and so in bad taste, and
Got
the
Justin on,
effects are
yeah.
so good. But
Yeah.
this guy goes to he wants to hear the stories of this man apparently has, and he has an advertisement up saying like, come here and you can have free room and board if you dress up as a walrus, and he doesn't dress him up as a walrus. He cuts off the man's legs and turns him into a walrus. And
Yeah,
oh
you
my
can
god,
tell him walrus, yeah.
it's horrifying, but
Like
it's also
Franken
really
walrus.
funny.
Like, oh my god. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. The effects are cringeworthy. Like you wouldn't expect Kevin Smith to make a movie like this because he did Red State too. I think that came out a little bit after, but that's a little bit different. That's more of a religious kind of take. But anyways, yeah, Tusk is so good because it's one of those ones where you're not really sure, like, because you know what's gonna happen, right? But you're not really sure when it's gonna happen. And then all of a sudden, when it does, it just goes for it, and it's just not afraid to be like this crazy movie.
Yeah, Zenkuko Tenshi mentioned the Monkey Shines VHS cover. The thing I remember most about Monkey Shines was the trailer, which was like one of those monkeys with like the drum, and it was telling you about the movie, and you're watching the monkey, and then all of a sudden, jump scare, the monkey like from the movie like jumps. Oh my god, that trailer used to scare the shit out of me.
That's awesome. I love the look of the old VHS covers because a lot of them were like hand-drawn art. So you just go through the video store all day, like, wow.
Right, because they're all like these little Pandora's boxes, and they have this picture on the front that gives you an idea of what's in store. And so, like, it was so fun to go to the Blockbuster with your $5 and be like, which one are we going to take a chance with today? And sometimes that was how you found the best movies.
Yeah. I was telling you before about how I found Ice Cream Man.
Absolutely.
I'm like, what is this movie? I have to see this.
Have you seen Zombievers?
I have not, but I've heard of it.
I think
It's one of those I wasn't
Australian.
sure if I could watch it or not. But hey, if you think it's good, I'll give it a shot.
It's
If you recommend it.
really tongue in cheek, but the effects are genuinely good. You have people who turn into beavers, people attacked by beavers, a lot of beaver humor, which is fun. It subverts expectations. People die that you don't think are going to die, but it's just a fun movie to, like I said, it's a beer and pizza movie. And the last one I wanted to mention was one that kind of reminded me of one of the ones you mentioned earlier, and I ended up adding this to my last minute, is The Ruins. Have you seen The Ruins?
I have seen The Ruins. Yeah, that was pretty good. That's like a
people who saw The Happening
movie.
and said plants aren't scary. Watch The fucking Ruins. The Ruins is. I've read the book too. The book is fucking scary too. But the movie, I think the movie is really underrated and really scary. Of these American backpackers go to Mexico to visit like this Mayan temple, and a lot of it's pretty spot on with how, like, people go on holiday and they just kind of walk into places without any consideration or respect or for like preparation, and before they know it, these people are shouting at them and are threatening them with guns, and they're not letting them leave because they've touched this temple. And so they're stranded at the top of this temple, and then the vines like go into their body while they're like sleeping and stuff. And like you can see them underneath their skin. It's really, really, really creepy.
There's a lot of really good body horror in this, and I like that.
Yes,
It's the mix of the CGI and practical effects, because they're like on the top of this temple, and the sun's just beaming down on them, and they're trying to think of how they could possibly get out of this without like losing any limbs or being eaten up by this creature. Like, not really a creature, but like this plant just going to take them in, and it's like one of those carnivorous plants, I guess. But oh my god, yeah, it's really good attention.
Like the book too, the book by Scott Smith, it came out like a year beforehand, but like it sounds goofy. It's one of those things you just have to read it, but it can even like mimic speech and stuff. And so it's like really able to fuck with them, like how it's able to get them to go into the actual temple and stuff. It's really, really creepy because it's sentient. It's really disturbing. Yeah. And I like that the movie killed different characters in the book. So even if you've read the book, it's still surprising and fun.
Well, yeah, you gotta do that sometimes. If you don't change it up, then it gets boring for the people that have actually read the books. Like a lot of times, movies take liberties and they go a little too far, Sometimes, not everything translates well on screen, so they have to make those changes. Like there's questionable stuff in it that never made it into the movies, and I'm really glad that it didn't. If you read the book, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's bad.
That's
It's bad.
come on, ride a train. It's a choo-choo train. No, no, no. We're not riding the Beverly train. We are not riding the Beverly train.
Town bicycle, anyone?
Yeah, no. I can't see that. It doesn't translate in the book very well, so I don't see how it would ever translate in a film.
No, exactly.
Sometimes I'm just like, dude, you were doing a lot of coke. But you know how you're saying how the ruins, like the heat and stuff, like that aspect of it and how they're trapped, they reminded me a lot of Cujo, which is again one of my favorite creature features. I think it's a fucking crime that Dee Wallace didn't get an Oscar for that movie. That movie is so underrated. I know a lot of you have seen it, but people chalk Cujo up as being like a B movie. It's got a solid killer. They have a very good reason why Cujo's doing what he's doing. It's heartbreaking to watch him succumb to his disease. You have Dee Wallace, who's phenomenal in the film, and that movie's just it's amazing. That movie is so underrated.
I do like that movie. Yeah, I do like that movie, but I have the book, and I don't know if you read it before, but the book is really interesting. It's from the perspective of the dog, and I was kind of sad when I found out the movie's not really about that, but it's still a really good film because it has that atmosphere that you're talking about. Because there's a lot of things. Like you can have a killer dog, that's one thing, but then you have these other elements, these outside forces, and it just makes the situation so much worse.
It's really heartbreaking in the book because it's like I told you about the Bad Moon. The book it's based on Thor is like that too. It's from the perspective of the dog, and so like it's hard because Cujo wants to be a good boy. He wants to make his family happy, and he doesn't understand why. But I think the movie did a really good job on that one part where it's all misty and he sees the boy who owns him, and you can tell that he takes everything in his being to not hurt that boy because he loves that boy so much. And then that's like the last bit of him before he dies. Like I think the movie found ways of bringing some of that in, but I think he is really sympathetic.
Yeah, I'm not knocking the film. It's not a bad film. I do enjoy it. Yeah, it's really good.
And I think it's good. I mean, spoilers, I guess, but I think it's good that the movie had Tad live. Even Stephen King agreed that was the best. He doesn't remember writing Cujo because he was really on a lot of coke. But he thinks that the movie did a better job with the ending than he did because he thinks the little boy should have lived. And I agree. The ending of the book's just kind of a bummer. The kid dies, and Donna has to get tested for rabies, and they have to cut Cujo's head off, and it's a bummer.
Oh, so sad. But yeah, that's a good underrated one because not everyone talks about Stephen. Oh, when they talk about Stephen King, they don't really talk about that one. You hear about the bigger titles like The Shining, you hear about It, and you hear about all these other ones. Even Stand By Me or The Stand. That one just came out, the new show.
Mm-hmm. I haven't watched the new show yet. Was it good?
I haven't seen it yet. No.
I love the original miniseries.
Everyone knows these titles, but Cujo is so underrated.
The new one, I heard it was like all out of order, and that kind of turned me off. So I didn't watch it.
I didn't know that. No. Huh. That's weird. I don't like when they do that because there's a certain story for a reason. Like, why just tell the story? So let's see what's in here with the chat real quick. I'm getting behind. Movie Massacre says, heading off, got some movies to watch with my wife. Fantastic stream. Thanks for joining us, dude. Horror Addicts says, the 80s Stephen King used to party with Dr. Ruxo and Dr. Roll Clown.
Okay.
You have anything else on your list?
That's it. I probably could think of more. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what you covered quite a bit here. That was so much fun. Thank you for joining me tonight.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'm really, I don't know. I like talking to you about movies, and I like talking about ones that people haven't seen. Because I think that's exciting when you introduce somebody to a movie that you think is special, and then especially when they think it's special too.
Yeah, exactly. And I like how we can bounce off each other. You're like, oh, I heard this one. Have you heard this one? And then this one, and then this one. It's kind of like ping pong almost, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
We go on our little tangents, but I think you and I know where we're at.
Yeah. As long as one of us knows what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So before we leave here, where can people find you on like social media and stuff like that? Do you have anything special coming up?
I'm Gory B Movie on everything. So type Gory B Movie on Instagram. Fun fact, if you type in Gory Draws Dongs, you can see all the dongs I draw of horror icons. It's a little extra for you. Gory B Movie on Twitter, Facebook. I have a big horror group that anyone can join to promote your horror stuff, meet other horror people, called the Gory Hole over on Facebook. I'm on Letterboxd, and as far as what I have coming up, I have some reviews I'm working on. A lot of my older Gory Details ones take longer, but I do stream a lot to kind of produce content in the meantime. We're having a lot of fun with this epic death battle that we spent weeks rostering, and they're finally fighting. So this Sunday, tune in for that. It's so much fun. We basically argue about the creatures that are battling, the horror icons that are battling, what their strengths and weaknesses are, and then we leave it up to the chat to vote on who would win. I'm also on a stream tomorrow on Have Cheetah Will View, 8 questions stream that he does regularly. That will be at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.
Yeah, I was on the show last week and it was a lot of fun. Some of the questions actually kind of stumped me though, because I wasn't prepared for some of those like audience questions. So be prepared. They will ask you anything. Like
really,
come in, like, and that's kind of the fun thing about it. Everything's so unpredictable.
That's awesome.
And horror addicts agree. It's a horror death battle.
Really, really fun. Like it was fun rostering it because we asked people like, who do you think should be on the roster? We didn't want to leave anybody out. But the actual battle is really exciting. And then we're going to have a battle of the winners at the end because we've separated them into categories like, kaijus and slasher killers and werewolves and witches. And it's really fun. So that way nobody it's not fair to throw Sidney Prescott against Godzilla. So they're in their own separate categories, but the winners of each category will face off. And it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah.
And that's every Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. I stream on my channel, and it's easy to find me on YouTube. It's just Gory B Movie, YouTube.com/Gory B Movie. You can also find me over on Horror Addicts with my husband and son. We do a lot more reviews of like more recent movies over there and unboxings and pretty much all things horror. And my husband's working on making his first short film right now, so lots of stuff about that probably soon on the channel.
That's pretty exciting. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Thank you again for joining me, taking time out of your busy schedule just for my first live stream. This is really exciting. I thought who better for my first guest than the person that helped me out in the first place. So thank you. I can't thank you enough.
First live stream's a big deal.
Joining too. Pardon me?
Your first live stream's a big deal. I'm like super stoked for you, and you did an awesome job. You're a natural host, and it was a real honor to be here.
That means a lot to me. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. I appreciate everyone's support. Thank you for watching the show. How do I end it? Just hit this little red button here.
Yeah. Before you go though, everyone please give my buddy a thumbs up in the chat. He worked really hard. He did a great job. So do the thumbs uppings and the subscribing and all of the things, all the button things down there.
Yeah, if you like, thank you. I almost forgot to say my socials. I'm just so excited for this thing. Okay, if you want to see and you want to see more, you can subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Horror Buzz Live. I make frequent appearances on their channel, and I do like lists, and I do like rankings, and I do interviews with different like celebrity guests and stuff like that. And then I'm also you can find my written reviews on horrorbuzz.com. I'm also on Medium, Instagram, Facebook. Well, no, my Facebook was hacked, so be careful about that. I'll post a different link soon. I didn't post the link down below, but my Twitter's on there, my Instagram, and Medium. Yeah, I post reviews there too. So thank you again for joining us, and have a good night.